The notion that we could lift huge blocks with sound seems absurd to archaeologists, and yet it's there.
There are secrets buried under the Roman temples at Baalbek, secrets carved into stones the size of buildings. Graham Hancock has spent his career chasing the ghosts of a lost civilization, and he believes Balbeck is their masterpiece. We're not talking about simple stone blocks, we're talking about megaliths, so perfectly joined you can't slip a piece of paper between them, engineered to withstand earthquakes.
These have to be more than 400 tons. It's hard to estimate at the moment. We're going to go up top and see how deep they are, maybe take some measurements if we can. They're so big, it's almost impossible.
The official story says the Romans did this, but Hancock exposes the flaws in that narrative, pointing to a forgotten age of incredible technology. What we'll uncover today will make you question everything you thought you knew about the ancient world. The Trilithon's silent secret. In the Bekaa Valley of modern-day Lebanon stands a ruin that defies explanation. We call it Baalbek. The Romans called it Heliopolis, the city of the sun, and they built one of their grandest temples here, the Temple of Jupiter. For centuries, the world has marveled at the scale of the Roman construction. But you see, not all things are what they seem. The thing nobody tells you is that the Romans built their temple on top of something much older, much bigger, and much more mysterious. The real marvel of Baalbek isn't the Roman temple, it's the platform it sits on. This platform is made of the largest worked stones on the entire planet. At its western edge is a section known as the Trilithon, 3 colossal limestone blocks, each measuring around 65 feet long, 14 feet high, and 12 feet thick. To put that in perspective, each stone weighs between 800 and 1,000 tons. That's the equivalent of 150 full-grown African elephants per block. These stones were quarried, transported over a mile, and lifted more than 20 feet into the air to be placed in a retaining wall with breathtaking precision. Many people are crazy about the fact that the joints are so perfect. Even after thousands of years of earthquakes in a seismically active zone, you still can't fit a razor blade between them. Mainstream archaeology insists the Romans, with their known engineering prowess, accomplished this feat. They suggest an army of workers using ramps, rollers, and immense leverage. But here's where the story starts to fall apart. There is absolutely zero evidence to support this. Roman historians were meticulous record keepers. They wrote about their aqueducts, their roads, their military victories. Yet on the subject of quarrying and moving the largest stones in the world at Baalbek, complete and utter silence. Not a single text, not one inscription boasts of this incredible achievement. It's as if for the Romans it was already there. They found it, marveled at it, and built on top of it, claiming the ancient glory for their own. But the mystery deepens. About a mile away in the original quarry lie even more staggering megaliths. The most famous is the Hajar al-Hubla, or the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a single block weighing over 1,000 tons. It was left in the quarry, partially attached to the bedrock, as if the work was suddenly abandoned. And in 2014, archaeologists found an even bigger stone right underneath it, tipping the scales at an unbelievable 1,650 tons. That's nearly 3.5 million pounds. Modern engineers, armed with our most powerful cranes, have openly admitted they would struggle to move such a stone today. Transporting it without it cracking under its own immense weight would be a logistical nightmare. Yet, we are asked to believe the Romans did it with ropes and logs. Graham Hancock argues this is not just unlikely, it's impossible. He suggests we are looking at the legacy of a forgotten people. An even bigger question remains, what kind of tools could have carved these stones? Tools that shouldn't exist. When you look closely at the stones of Baalbek, the official narrative begins to crumble into dust. The mainstream explanation holds that Roman workers used bronze and iron chisels, mallets, and wedges to painstakingly carve these megaliths from the earth. But the evidence on the stones themselves tells a very different story. The cuts are too clean, the surfaces too smooth, the angles too perfect for the simple tools of the Roman era. You see, the marks left behind don't look like the pecked, uneven surfaces you'd expect from hand tools. Instead, they look almost machined. Graham Hancock and other researchers have pointed out features that seem to defy ancient construction methods. On the stone of the pregnant woman and others in the quarry, there are grooves and channels that are eerily straight and uniform. Some theorists have even suggested they resemble the marks left by giant circular saws. But a saw that could slice through limestone on this scale would have to be enormous and made of a material far harder than anything the Romans possessed. There are also strange, scoop-like marks, as if something was softening and removing the stone rather than just chipping away at it. Hancock has speculated, could this be evidence of a lost technology, something akin to sonic drills or even laser cutting? The thing nobody tells you is the sheer logistical problem. To quarry a 1,000-ton block, you first have to separate it from the bedrock on 5 of its 6 sides. This means digging deep, precise trenches around it, a task that would take an army of workers years, if not decades, with simple hand tools. And what about those tools? An operation of this magnitude would have required tens of thousands of them. Yet archaeologists have found virtually no tools at the Balbeck quarry. There are no mountains of broken chisels, no discarded hammers, nothing to indicate the massive, long-term industrial effort this would have been. Similarly, where are the remains of the workers' camps? A project that massive would need a city's worth of laborers housed and fed for generations. There is no evidence any such city ever existed. Many people are crazy about the idea that the builders used some form of advanced knowledge we have since lost. It wasn't just about brute force, it was about incredible finesse. The stones of the trilithon weren't just thrown into place, they were fitted together with the precision of a watchmaker. This implies not only advanced lifting technology but also sophisticated surveying and measuring tools. The Romans were excellent surveyors, but the scale at Balbeck is on another level entirely. How did they ensure that a block, once transported a mile from the quarry, would fit perfectly into its designated spot 20 feet in the air? The margin for error was 0. One slip, one miscalculation, and the entire 1,000-ton block would be useless. It's a feat of engineering so advanced that it borders on the miraculous. But if the Romans didn't do it, who did? A global breadcrumb trail. This is where Graham Hancock's theory moves from the stones of Baalbek to a story that spans the entire globe and reaches back into the mists of the last ice age. Hancock doesn't believe aliens built Baalbek. He proposes something far more intriguing, that the builders were human, the survivors of a highly advanced global civilization that was wiped out by a cataclysm around 12,800 years ago. This lost civilization, he argues, possessed scientific and engineering knowledge that in some ways surpassed our own, and they left their fingerprints all over the world. You see, Baalbek isn't an isolated mystery, it's part of a pattern. All across the globe, we find other megalithic structures that defy the capabilities of their supposed builders. In Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman features massive polygonal stone blocks fitted together so perfectly that they are still standing after centuries of earthquakes. The pyramids of Giza in Egypt show a mastery of engineering and astronomy that continues to baffle us. On the remote Pacific island of Easter Island, giant moai statues were carved and moved. Hancock suggests these sites are not the independent work of primitive cultures, but are connected. The legacy of this single ancient seafaring civilization. The thing nobody tells you is that ancient myths and legends from hundreds of cultures worldwide tell the same story. A story of a great flood, a cataclysm that wiped the slate of history clean. From the story of Noah in the Bible to the Epic of Gilgamesh to the legends of the Maya and the Hopi, we hear of a global disaster and the few who survived it. Hancock believes these are not myths but fragmented memories of a real event. This event is known to geologists as the Younger Dryas, a period of intense catastrophic climate change that began around 12,800 years ago, coinciding with the extinction of many large Ice Age animals. The cause? Potentially a comet impact that struck the North American ice sheet, triggering unimaginable global flooding and vaporizing everything in its path. Many people are crazy about this idea because it connects so many dots. The survivors of this catastrophe, Hancock posits, emerged from the wreckage and sought to preserve their knowledge. They traveled the world, teaching the more primitive hunter-gatherer societies that also survived. They became the civilizing heroes, the gods and wise men spoken of in myth. And they built these incredible megalithic structures like Baalbek as messages to the future, as markers of their lost world. Baalbek's high elevation at 3,800 feet would have kept it safe from the worst of the floods. It might have been an antediluvian sanctuary, a place of immense importance to this lost civilization, which would explain why the Romans later held it in such high regard. But if this is true, why has it been ignored by mainstream history? History's gatekeepers. Why isn't Graham Hancock's theory taught in schools? Why is he often labeled a pseudo-archaeologist by the academic establishment? The answer is simple, yet profound. If Hancock is right, even partially right, then our entire understanding of human history is wrong. The neat, linear progression from cave dweller to farmer to Roman engineer collapses. It introduces a massive disruptive element, a lost, highly advanced civilization that existed thousands of years before Sumeria or Egypt. This idea is so revolutionary that it threatens the very foundations of modern archaeology and history. You see, science, like any human institution, has its own dogma. The accepted model of the past is built on decades of research, careers, and reputations. To even consider an idea like Hancock's is seen as a direct attack on that entire structure. Mainstream archaeologists argue that there is no physical evidence, no broken super tools, no circuit boards, no remains of this lost civilization cities. They stick to the Roman explanation for Balbeck because it fits within the established timeline. They create complex, often far-fetched diagrams of how thousands of men could have moved the stones with levers and ramps, even if there's no evidence for those ramps or levers. It's an explanation born out of necessity because the alternative is just too paradigm-shattering to contemplate. The thing nobody tells you is that there is mounting evidence that challenges the mainstream view. Recent geological findings increasingly support the Younger Dryas impact theory, the very cataclysm Hancock proposes. Carbon dating of organic material found underneath some of these ancient megalithic sites has yielded dates far older than previously thought, pushing their origins back thousands of years, long before the supposed builders were thought to be capable of such feats. At Balbeck itself, some evidence suggests human activity at the site as far back as 9,000 years ago. Many people are crazy about the level of resistance from the academic world. Instead of engaging with these uncomfortable questions, the mainstream often resorts to dismissal and ridicule. But the questions don't go away. How were the stones moved? Why are there no Roman records? Why do we see similar impossible construction techniques all over the world, separated by vast oceans? The official explanations feel increasingly hollow. They fail to account for the sheer genius and audacity of these structures. Saying the Romans did it with ropes is no longer a sufficient answer for a generation raised on the internet, able to see the evidence for themselves and ask their own questions. The silence from the ivory tower is becoming deafening. So where does this leave us, the average person, wondering about our own past? It's easy to get lost in the tonnage of stones and the debates between academics. But the core of this mystery is a profoundly human one. It's about who we are and where we come from. Are we the pinnacle of a slow, steady climb from the Stone Age, as the textbooks tell us? Or are we a species with amnesia, living in the shadow of a forgotten, far more brilliant past? The thing is, if a civilization with advanced technology existed on Earth just 12,000 years ago, it changes everything. It means that history isn't a straight line up. It's a cycle of rise and fall, of incredible achievement followed by catastrophic collapse. Could it happen again? Are we missing a key detail about our own vulnerability as a species, a detail that our ancestors tried to warn us about in myths and monuments? The stones of Balbeck don't just ask, how were we built? They ask what happened to the people who built us. They stand as a silent, powerful warning. The stones of Balbeck remain silent, holding their secrets tight. Are they a monument to Roman ingenuity or the last will and testament of a drowned world? Maybe the real lost civilization is us, lost to our own history. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the mysteries of our past.